Hello, my name is Denise Cosby. Welcome to my blog, Surviving Murder. Trying to survive murder is a daunting, difficult task for families that are left behind when their loved ones have been cut down by the hands of others. The death of a child is the most heart-wrenching reality any parent could face. However, to lose him or her by the hands of others is even more devastating. Not to minimize the pain of anyone's death, I feel that losing someone to murder is worse than losing someone from an accident or a fatal illness. The suddenness and finality of murder penetrates through the hearts and souls of those left behind forever. The fact that someone decided to commit an act that ended someone's life makes murder all more senseless and devastating. It does not only hurt the intended target, it destroys families and loved ones left behind. I know from firsthand experience. It is very hard for me to articulate my anger, sadness, aggravation, humiliation, and disgust for what shattered my family's lives forever. On May 18, 2009, a news bulletin flashed across my television set, reporting that a young man had been shot on Harvard University's campus. He had been shot in the entryway of the most popular dorm on the Ivy campus, the Kirkland House. The news was shocking and disturbing. I decided to go out for a while to visit a friend. I couldn't get the news report out of my mind. My 21-year-old son had been home most of the day in his room. I decided to go out for a while and had planned to call him later. About an hour after I had left home, I received a call notifying me that I needed to get to the hospital as soon as possible. Something had happened to my son, Justin. I couldn't fathom what had happened to him. When the call came in, I was driving down a curvy road not far from the hospital. A nervous voice was on the other end of the line. It was one of my son's friends. He told me something had happened to Justin and I needed to get to the hospital right away. Of course, the questions started to surface in my head. What happened and where are you? He told me he was at the police station and they would not tell him what had happened to Justin. Immediately, I told him to put the officer on the phone he was with. The officer told me he could not give me details, but I should get to the hospital as soon as possible. Even though I was close to the hospital area, I became discombobulated and had to navigate my way there in a state of confusion. After arriving at the hospital, I was met by several law enforcement officers and medical staff who confirmed my son was there. I feared he had been involved in an accident. However, the news was much worse. The police told me there had been a shooting at Harvard University earlier that evening, an attempted robbery of marijuana. Justin had been coerced to bring some marijuana to sell to someone he thought was a student at the school. Oh my God, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I could barely process what he was saying. I'm listening and thinking, what that had to do with my son? And then reality hit me. Justin was the young man whom the news report had featured. Oh my God. This was the worst nightmare any mother could imagine. Hours later, I would leave the hospital consumed in grief, because I had just lost my baby boy. Yes, Justin was my baby. My baby boy had just died. My only son, so devoted and loving, full of life, hope, promise, and charisma. A joy to have as a son. Cut down in broad daylight on the campus of one of the most prestigious universities in the world. The fact that Justin's murder centered around marijuana made me ambivalent as to how the criminal justice system was going to handle this case. How they would react to me. I knew Justin was not a drug dealer. Unfortunately, our children sometimes make bad decisions when they are transforming from teens to adulthood and experiment and try things they shouldn't. The media threw out allegations and speculations. I could not focus on the reason Justin had been shot, but the fact my son had just died from a murder by the hands of others. 2.5 years of court appearances and allegations followed. I attended each and every one of those trials and for 4 defendants. Thank God each of them received lengthy sentences and the shooter received life without parole. The actions of a murderer or murderers are reckless to say the least. He or she has no regard for life, human dignity, or humanity. No morality. I find that greed, control, manipulation, or revenge are usually the prime cause of murder. What my son did may have been illegal, but what was done to him was immoral. My son's mortality is the lack of someone else's immorality. Our loved ones have been silenced, and the pain and agony is infinite. Trying to stay sane through all this pain is almost impossible. Families are only left with memories, which become little rays of light during our darkest days and endless nights. As fortunate as my family was to have positive results in our quest to find justice through the criminal justice system, many families never find justice. Many families are left not even knowing who killed their loved ones or why. That has to be horrendous. I think it just makes the nightmare worse. The world is evolving and changing every day. However, the only thing that has evolved or changed about murders are their gruesome nature. The justification that perpetrators give for murdering another has become more ludicrous and insane. The impact of murder and the pain and agony for family and friends left behind remains the same. Young people make bad choices and decisions all the time. So does a lot of older people. However, the choice to deliberately take someone's life for your own greed or selfish reason is unacceptable and should be a line that no one should ever cross. Do you remember the call? The call that alerted you to get to the hospital as soon as possible. Something had happened to your precious one. The call that led to the doctors meeting you in the hallways, saying, "I'm sorry, but I couldn't save your son or daughter." Oh my God. The call is ingrained in every fiber of your being for the rest of your life. The call is the beginning of the nightmare that lies ahead. Let's not suffer in silence anymore. Let's talk about it. I will never forget the call. Tell me what you remember about the call. So many opinions fly. Of course, everyone is entitled to their opinions, but each family is already going through their own hell. The void is overwhelming. Enough. Yet people continue to speculate and throw stones. I would like my blog to become our blog. I like I hope that surviving murder become the thread that binds together families who have lost loved ones to murder by the hands of others. Our loved ones are gone, but definitely not forgotten. Can you relate?